Mattel's Battlestar Galactica collection. You can imagine the Imperious leader commands the Cylon Centurion to capture Daggett.
Make Daggett lead us to the humans.
You can imagine Daggett fears Ovion, the enemy with insect arms.
Lieutenant Starbuck. Yes, Commander Adama. Prepare for secret mission.
Each figure sold separately. Daggett, Imperious leader, Cylon Centurion, and Ovion. Each figure sold separately, not for use with other Battlestar Galactica toys. New from Mattel.
Who calls me from out of the pit?
I'm Paul.
I'm Mark.
And this is the return of the son of the show. This week we're going to talk about the 1970 what? 1978 series Battlestar Galactica. You may have heard of it. Particularly, we're going to talk about the pilot movie, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
But before we do that, if you like this kind of stuff, why don't you do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you don't miss a single video. So let's talk about the Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Well, so I think we both agreed that I'm not sure, and our childhood memories are cloudy on this at best.
Yeah.
And so I agree. I think I watched it in syndication.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I watched it when it first came out, because I'm assuming, and we did some research, when it was first released, the quote-unquote pilot was the 3-hour movie,
Mm-hmm.
Saga of a Star World. And I can't imagine my dad would have let me on a Sunday, on a night, watch a 3-hour movie.
Especially if, what was it? Do you know what night of the week it aired?
No, I don't. I have to go back and look.
Okay.
But yeah, I think, and so I think I watched it that summer in reruns, because
Yeah.
I don't remember it being a 3-hour. I remember it as 3 separate episodes.
Well, that's why I think our confusion with the continuity is because the producer screwed with it for so much that there were so many different entities of it,
right,
that we can't keep them straight. I don't think I saw the full movie because, one, even if it started at 7 o'clock at that age, I probably would have fell asleep before it was over.
Yep.
But I remember, I definitely remember seeing the pilot movie as 3 episodes. I think.
Yep.
That's why we're going to talk about the pilot movie, Star World.
Yeah, Saga of a Star World is what it's called.
That doesn't sound plagiaristic at all.
No, not at all. No. Can't imagine where he got that idea from.
No. The thing about this movie, this is a Glenn Larson movie. It was made mostly simultaneously with the Buck Rogers, or
shortly thereafter, Buck Rogers.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah, Buck Rogers might have been. But I'm not sure how much he had to do with season 2, because we know season 2 of Buck Rogers changed hands. So maybe Glenn Larson was not as. We'll know. Well, you'll see when we learn, when we watch season 2 eventually.
And the thing about the first thing I noticed about this, I haven't watched it since like Sci-Fi Channel in the 90s, is it just like Buck Rogers, it doesn't look cheap.
Nope.
But unlike Buck Rogers, it's not really mired in the 70s.
No.
A little bit in the middle of the pilot movie, but overall doesn't look cheap. It doesn't really seem dated.
And other than the fact just because you might relate it to Buck Rogers, if you didn't have Buck Rogers, I would never associate it with disco like you do Buck Rogers. And so, and the fact that the mythology, I think the mythology helps it be timeless. Now, granted, we both agreed that it definitely, that time in the 70s, pyramid power, the Egyptians Egyptians couldn't have built the pyramids. It had to be aliens taught those.
Yep. Had to be all those white old aliens.
Yeah, white old aliens had to come teach those brown people how to build pyramids. So, I mean, that was clearly, but even though the aesthetic is Egyptian, I know I did research on Glenn A. Larson was Mormon, and so he based it. A lot of mythology is based on Mormonism, so that's why
you're right.
Yeah, 12 tribes.
You're
the
right.
Lost tribe. a new covenant, a new a new world they're discovering. Kobol is a reverse. He changed some of the letters around. That's also a concept. So yeah, so it was very Mormonistic, and so.
By the way, Lords of Kobol is a great metal band name.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about
and their first epic album, Saga of Star Wars.
Saga of Star Wars. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the cast.
Yeah, so you get Glenn A. Larson, who is just his pedigree is huge.
Yeah,
as we talked about with Buck Rogers, but you got to start with Lorne Greene, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So what better patriarch to pick than he ran Bonanza?
Yeah, if you're doing wagon train in space, why not have like the Western dad?
Yeah, and he does a really. He's very his acting is fantastic.
Well, look, that's how he was. He was in Bonanza. He was one type of character.
Yeah.
In this show, he's another type of character. He's another type of character in that Nick would know the Volcano Hawaii disaster movie. He's a different type of character. He was a really good, well-rounded actor.
Yeah, and then for the kids today, I think the next most famous would actually be Boxy, is Noah Hathaway, who was starred in the Never-Ending Story.
I thought he looked familiar.
Yeah, so Noah Hathaway, the little kid, the kid with the bowl haircut, the Oliver Jinks haircut. He grew up to be Noah Hathaway in the Never-Ending Story. So that I don't even know that's why I looked up the.
No, that's crazy.
But and then we have Wilfred Hyde White, who was also in season 2 of Buck Rogers, but he was a longtime actor.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to, of course, then we have our Starsky and Hutch of Battlestar Galactica, our Bo and Luke Duke.
Yep.
As all 70s, Ponch and Johns, all 70s shows had to have, or your two guys from Emergency 51.
Yep.
So we have Richard Hatch as our dark-haired lead, and of course Dirk Benedict as Starbuck, and
the great Dirk Benedict.
Yes, who then
national treasure. Dirk Benedict,
who then became Face in 18.
Yep.
Richard Hatch Richard Hatch spent the majority of his life trying to get a Battlestar Galactica reboot. He even did. If you go on YouTube, you can see his attempt, and he really delved into the Mormon psychic mystic, because apparently Apollo and Adama have these psychic abilities that he got into in the later movie. But and of course, although Richard Hatch later joined the cast of the reboot as Zarek, who is probably one of my favorite characters. That's a whole other night.
I would have to watch those because I've never watched a single episode.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And I don't care what you say about what people say about the finale. It was good. And then we have a whole bevy of 70s, 80s beauties. Leading with the lovely and talented Jane Seymour.
Glenn Larson. I don't know if he was in charge of casting for his shows, but the man knew what he was doing with his shows.
Yeah. Yeah, to have Jane Seymour.
Yeah.
Now, granted, she won't make it too long in the series.
Spoilers.
Too big of a star, but she's excellent in it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Laurette Spang, who played Cassiopeia. I'm not sure what else she did after this.
Mm-hmm.
But we get Maren Jensen, who's kind of, as you said, looks like a model. And we got Terry Carter, Colonel Ty. We got the Herbert Jefferson Jr., who played Boomer.
Mm-hmm.
So, they went for a very diverse cast, which was good in the 70s.
Yep.
And then you do get John Colicos as Baltar, who just eats the screen alive. And he also was one of the Klingons, one of the 3 Klingons in Star Trek, who then they brought back in Deep Space Nine. So he's got a sci-fi pedigree behind him.
And the original series?
Yeah, he played one of the and then they brought him back as an old Klingon. They brought back 3 of the Klingons from the original Star Trek. on an adventure in Deep Space Nine.
Oh, okay.
So it's a really, really good episode.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they updated their makeup, so they kind of had to explain why did Klingons look different back in the old show than after the movie. And then you get some super famous people. You've got Ed Begley Jr., who is just a minor character, but he eventually joined St. Elsewhere. Famously, this was his big role.
Famously for being the Invisible Man, and I think the Kentucky Fried Movie where he thought he was invisible.
Yep. Yes. You get Rick Springfield as the short-lived Lieutenant Zach, Apollo's younger brother.
Yeah.
So Rick Springfield was in it. Of General Hospital fame and 80s music fame. Randy Oakes was in it, barely in it. She was on the Casino Planet, but she later on went to star in Chips.
Yep.
Who else? Ray Milland was in it as Sire Uri, sort of the bad guy of episode 3.
And the man made some movies.
Yeah. So he's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And then we learned something new. So then we learned the little short-haired girl that's always going, Cylon attack in 6 centons.
Yes.
Apparently she was Flight Corporal Rigel, but she did not have a name in the movie.
Yeah, she's like, what was it in Star Wars? Like, was it like Palpatine or whatever? Or no, where like they had him, but you had to know what his name was.
Correct.
You know, it was just the Emperor.
Yeah.
You know, she had a name. We just didn't know it.
Yeah, and that's just for the movie.
Yeah.
And then of course Patrick McNee
as
the voice of the Imperial Leader of Avengers fame and many other TV shows, movies.
Yes.
And so,
and my favorite of all time, Dr. Smith.
Yes, who gets a surprise entrance at the very end as Lucifer, who is the coolest looking robot.
He's one of those designs that has followed me my whole life.
Yeah.
I've said that about stuff in the past.
Yeah.
Like the UFO in the Bionic Woman episode.
Yes,
yeah. Lucifer's design has followed me my whole life.
I mean, and speaking of designs, I mean, the designs of the show are just, I mean, the Cylons are just cool looking. I mean, if you want to design cool robots.
Yeah.
And then, and the ships are great looking. I mean,
especially the big UPS ship.
Yeah. The ragtag fleet looked really cool.
And the U-Haul ship.
Yeah, I also like the Cylon Battlestars. I like them so much better than what they did in the reboot. But yeah, I love the Battlestars in this, and so I mean, Battlestar, Death.
This lawsuit was frivolous.
Yes. So it clearly tried, I mean, there's been plenty of articles and stories on capitalizing on Star Wars. So I mean, clearly, but who didn't back then?
So. You wanted to make a buck, you capitalized on Star Wars.
Yeah.
One of the things, talking about the production look and everything, is like I said before, it doesn't look cheap. It would have looked cheap if they would have done it a different way. Like I was noticing, have you ever seen you ever seen Space Mutiny with Red Brown?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they borrowed a bunch of stuff from Battlestar Galactica for it. Well, on their spaceship, they're just in this big warehouse full of pipes and stuff, and it just looks cheap. But like in Battlestar Galactica, there's scenes where they're walking around in some power, like a dam power plant or something.
Right.
But all they got to do is they put like a green or red or blue gel on the screen on the camera, and it changes everything.
Yeah, and they do that especially in the command center of the Galactica.
Yeah.
It's always bathed in red,
Yep.
so especially when they go through the weird nebula,
Mm-hmm.
and they clearly spent money on that set because I mean that bridge rotates,
Yep.
and so that's a really well. I mean, if you're gonna have a focus, to your show, that's a really good.
Yeah.
The bridge looks great.
Yeah, even with HD TV type stuff, because we noticed like the really cool transport vehicles, like when they pull up close, you can see the wood grain on top. Where they just slapped a piece of wood and painted it gray.
Yeah,
you can see the wood grain in it, and but the show's 40 years old.
Yeah,
so
And I mean, and as a kid, I don't remember, complaining about the effects shots, but I mean, clearly they only had enough money to do about 10 battle shots that they reshuffled, turned around.
Yeah.
But,
The cool thing is, though, is they may have had 10 different angles and shots, but for a show that used a lot of combat footage,
yeah,
it doesn't look too bad.
No,
you just reusing what you've got. It's pretty impressive.
It is, and and an homage to, as we were talking, there's so much Pearl Harbor, World War II homage in this that and in those old movies they reused scenes.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's the famous one of the like the P-15 Mustang getting all blown up and falling apart as it hits the water. I mean, how many movies have I seen that scene in?
Mm-hmm.
And so that. But clearly, the mythos in this one, it owes a lot to. It feels like World War II.
Yeah. Surprise attack.
Yeah.
And then the idea where they lure they lure the Cylons this way while the rest of the fleet's over here.
Yes.
And they
kind of like the D-Day invasion almost.
Yeah.
And then you get well, and it's an other attacking them. So like in this, and they explain it by the third episode, which when Apollo's talking to Boxy about where the Cylons came from, they were lizard people who then created robots to battle for them, and then eventually the lizard people died out, and now the robots are all that remains. And Baltar at the end says, "Long live the Empire." So I mean, it's a little, but definitely World War II. Whereas the reboot was definitely 9/11, and the enemy is hidden within and without, and so kind of interesting. I had forgotten the whole lizard thing. I'd forgotten that they were originally lizards.
Well, okay, so I don't know about you. I really like this, but I kind of got a little bit lost in about the middle of it because I think it went on a little bit longer than it should have. But I still really like it. What's the plot?
If this really was released as a 3-hour movie, which we can say that it was, we don't remember it that way, but what a terrible decision.
Yeah,
because it's clearly you had roots, you had all that kind of. Why didn't you do 3 separate episodes on 3 separate nights? Because the 3 don't go thematically don't go together.
The beats for the acts are not clear enough.
No.
The first part, yes, there's a whole scene where dude's just standing there looking at all the destruction.
Yeah,
it's like and scene,
right, and
then Act 2 starts.
Yeah,
but the gray area between Act 2 and Act 3 is just it doesn't really.
Yeah,
it's not clear enough for me.
And I guess, and I think it suffers. It suffers in the third act. I think the whole. I mean, an interesting story in and of itself. That you've got a insectoid planet. Entertaining humans in order to feast on them later. Hello, V stealing. Anyway, I mean, so it's
to serve man.
Exactly, everything gets rehashed. So, I think that distracted. I guess I would have done. So if the whole idea is that you want to have a climactic end with a base, I mean, I suppose you could argue let's and I don't know if the epilogue was part of the original movie or not. I can't find anything that says anything about the epilogue. But let's say there was no epilogue. You could have said this was just a movie. They end with the base star, the Imperial leader blowing up. That could have been the end of it.
Yeah.
And so why not just, if the whole plot is they find this planet, don't even have the bugs and stuff. They find the planet. They know that the fuel is there. Then they discover the Cylons beat them to it. Then they trick the base star into going down by the planet, blowing it up. It was too much packed. It needed an editor. It either needed to be split up as it was later, which it made sense. It's 3 episodes later. I just think it got progressively weaker as it went on. The 3 went on.
Yeah, it would be interesting to watch because what was it? There was like the shortened Canadian release.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to watch that because my problem with it was the second act. I thought the whole middle section with the mystery of what was going on dragged on entirely too long.
Oh yeah.
That by the time, and then, but then by the time the action started, we're just like, what was the
right?
What
Why
was
are
the
we
plot?
why are we doing this? Yeah.
What was the plot? I got a little bit lost.
Yeah. And the subterfuge part of are we being tricked again? I think it was just too many plots that you didn't need. Kind of like we complained about the Bionic Woman. There, you could have had a core plot, boiled it down to 2 hours. Cylons tricked us once.
Mm-hmm.
We think we found a planet we can be on. It's got fuel. It's got food. Don't have the bug aliens. Adama's like, nope, not being fooled twice. And we defeat the Cylons and end scene. And then save the bug episode for another, could have been a later episode. Because in my head, that's what it was. The bug episode, to me, came later. Like, I didn't even think about it with this one.
I knew it was early in, like, the first half of the series. But I think that goes to the whole idea where they pretty much messed it up by they messed up our memory of how it worked out by the way they presented it.
Yeah. And choosing the fact that they were going from it being a series of TV movies to suddenly it got greenlit as a series, which killed it essentially.
Yeah.
Because production could not keep up with it.
Yeah.
Hence why it only ran. Well, we've discovered. In my head, it ran years and years and years, but nope, only ran less than a year.
Yeah.
And so, I just some editing choices were odd in this, and so it doesn't feel like a cohesive 3-hour plot. It didn't. It felt like 3 stories strung together.
Yeah.
Loosely.
Yeah.
And so.
And we've watched the series.
Mm-hmm.
We've watched the pilot movie.
Yeah.
We've watched the shortened movie, I'm sure. So we've seen like almost all 3 entities.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so confusing to us.
Yeah.
That's why our memory is so
fuddled. Yeah, befuddled.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be kind of like not remembering how many times you've seen Blade Runner, all the different versions of it. And so, which one is the version with the organ and the voiceover? And is that that's supposed to be the bad version? Yeah. I mean, we're kind of getting all those confused.
Mm-hmm.
I think it suffers that. Maybe I wish the DVD we had just went ahead and split up into 3 episodes.
Yeah.
I would have rather have reviewed just the first episode and been wowed, and because the first episode is cracking. It's great.
Oh yeah, it takes off.
Yeah.
And keeps going all the way to the end.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, it's these people have it rough.
Yeah.
From minute 1.
Yeah, and that's the way. That's how I feel like it should have gone. And what's funny is, and not to keep going to referencing the sequel or the reimagining, that miniseries suffered in the same way. So I remember going, I don't know about this show because it kind of lost its footing in that second part of that miniseries. So. Just have the destruction of the world. The fleet gets together. We're searching for a planet called Earth. That's it. That's all you need for your movie. You don't need the rest. And so, because like I said, the bug episode would have been great in and of itself. But I mean, I know we kind of sound more negative than we are. I mean, it's still really good memories.
Oh yeah, we're not really dismissing this series. Because it was hugely influential on us.
Yeah.
I used to draw Cylons all the time because I always thought Cylons looked cooler than Stormtroopers.
Yep.
Although they kind of look like Darth Vader now that I look at it twice. But and obviously we say silly things like frack, or Feltercarb, or Centon, So it's in our vernacular, so it had that much of an influence on us. It's just that the confusion of it all is what currently has me kind of like bogged down a little bit.
Yeah, it's just your memory. Yeah, my child. Well, I mean, we had to sit here and piece together. Okay, so it was released in '78, but it doesn't fit my memories of childhood of 1978.
Yeah.
So that's what we talked a long time tonight. Discovered some weird things that after knowing each other for 30.
Well, don't say 30. 30, we're talking close to 40
years.
Yeah.
40 years. We discovered a whole commonality we had no idea we had, thanks to surgeries as children.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, the only way I can think about it is I somehow was not awake to see the 3-hour, and then maybe it was a school night, so I didn't watch it or something, or my dad had the TV, but when I remember I hurt my leg, or not my, I'm sorry, I had my eye surgery. I had my leg surgery. I got done my leg surgery. So I was in a cast for a whole summer. And that's when I remember watching it. Because they let me have the TV.
Yeah,
so,
and back then it wouldn't have been anything in the summer to be rerun movies.
Yeah.
So we may even have seen the movies, the TV movie, in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
On one of their weekly movies.
Yeah.
And then watch the series and been totally confused, in repeats.
Yeah, I think packaging wise, with this, this is a great package. As far as but had I had a better memory of it, we probably would have broke it. I would have stopped watching it after the clear break and from 1 and 2, and I'm not really sure where the 2 and 3 breaks.
I think in the series it breaks when Boxy's walking around and the little monster thing covers.
Yes,
freezes,
you're right,
and then it jumps into the introduction of the cast all over again.
Yes, you're right.
I think I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know down below. I'm too lazy to look it up.
But even though he totally rips off Star Wars, the storyline is the stakes are a lot higher.
Yeah,
because this is Star Wars is basically a story of a civil war, an ongoing civil war. This is a story of humanity facing annihilation. And so
one of the things for me that it has over Buck Rogers and attracted me to it is aliens.
Yeah.
They weren't all just humans.
Right.
And we'd seen Star Wars at that point, and the famous cantina scene with all the different aliens in it. So it was fun seeing the Cylons, the bug people, the weird dude in the chair.
Yeah.
Those weird that trio of singers on the gambling planet that I'm blinking the whole time I'm watching them because I think my eyes are going out of focus, and they're even talking in two voices, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I remember having we were talking, I had the Wonder Bread card with one of those logos on it, and I remember looking at that as a kid, it looks seamless as a kid.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like a Jim Henson Muppet either, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
And even the bug aliens are more Doctor Who-esque than they are.
Very much so. Right down to the honeycombed walls.
Yes.
That's very Doctor Who.
Yeah. So I like that better. Interestingly enough, though, of course, all that stuff, again, talking about the sequel, that all got taken out. It was all humanity. But I do like the alien part of it.
Yeah.
The fact that there were alien planets. And so it'll be interesting to see what alien planets they go to as they try to cross over to Earth.
Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for the pilot. For the Lords of Light,
yes, Lords of Cobalt.
Lords of Cobalt. Just like at the beginning, I'm Paul.
I'm Mark.
And this has been the Return of the Son of the Show.
Red alert! Red alert! We are under fire! Take this, you space bitch!
Let's get out there, kick some ass!